Today, we're taking a comprehensive look at the rapidly evolving world of next-generation metabolic therapies. We'll be focusing particularly on those based around glucagon-like peptide 1, or GLP-1, as it's commonly known. Our goal here is to distill the intricate science, the latest clinical progress, and also the strategic implications of these truly transformative treatments. We want to offer you clarity on what really matters in this fast-moving field.
And before we proceed, it is crucial to understand that the content presented here is for informational purposes only and is not medical advice. We urge you to consult with a qualified healthcare provider for any personal health questions. Furthermore, many of the therapies we will be discussing today are investigational, meaning they are not approved by the Food and Drug Administration and are not available for general use.
Right. Thank you for that essential guidance. Okay, so with that established, let's start at the beginning with the foundational science that's really fueling this revolution in metabolic medicine. It all kicks off with something called the incretin effect, which is this really remarkable physiological observation. Essentially, if you take glucose orally, like drinking a sugary drink, your body produces a much, much greater insulin response compared to getting the exact same amount of glucose intravenously, like through an IV drip.
That difference is key.
Exactly. That significant difference tells us our gut must be releasing powerful signaling molecules when it senses nutrients.
Signals that talk to the pancreas.
Precisely. And these molecules, they play a crucial role in enhancing that pancreatic insulin response.
And the two main players here, the primary hormones driving this incretin effect are GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1, and GIP, which stands for glucose-dependent insulinotropic polypeptide.
Let's break down GLP-1 first. What does it do?
Okay, so GLP-1 is a peptide hormone. It's secreted mainly by specialized cells called enteroendocrine L cells. These are found down in the distal part of our intestine, and they respond directly to the nutrients we eat.
Ah, okay.
When GLP-1 gets released and binds to its specific receptors, its most famous job is stimulating insulin release from the pancreatic beta cells.
Right, the insulin production.
Yes, but what's really clever is that this is glucose dependent.
Meaning
GLP-1 mainly triggers insulin release only when blood sugar levels are actually elevated. This acts like a built-in safety mechanism, significantly minimizing the risk of hypoglycemia, dangerously low blood sugar, which is a major worry with some older diabetes drugs.
That's a huge advantage, but it does more than just affect insulin.
Oh, absolutely. GLP-1's influence is much broader. It also inhibits glucagon secretion from the pancreatic alpha cells. This happens especially when blood sugar is high. Less glucagon means the liver produces less glucose, which further helps control blood sugar.
Okay, so it damps down glucose production too.
Exactly. And there's more. GLP-1 also slows down gastric emptying, basically, how quickly food leaves your stomach.
Ah, so that affects digestion speed.
Right. It blunts that rapid spike in blood glucose right after a meal. And importantly, it contributes to a feeling of fullness, of satiety.
Makes sense. Feeling full helps regulate how much you eat.
Precisely. And finally, GLP-1 also acts directly on receptors in the brain involved in regulating appetite and satiety. So it's hitting metabolic control from multiple angles: pancreas, liver, stomach, brain.
But a truly multifaceted hormone. Now, what about the other one, GIP?
Right, GIP. It was actually the first incretin hormone identified. It's secreted by K cells, which are located higher up in the digestive tract and the proximal small intestine.
Okay.
Like GLP-1, GIP shares that powerful insulinotropic effect. It also stimulates insulin release when glucose is present.
So similar to GLP-1 in that respect.
Yes, but GIP has some distinct differences, particularly in how it affects glucagon secretion and maybe even fat metabolism. For instance, during low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, GIP can sometimes actually stimulate glucagon release, the opposite of GLP-1 in that situation. It highlights the body's complex balancing act.
Interesting contrast there.
And here's a crucial point for understanding why these therapies are needed. In people with type 2 diabetes, that natural incretin effect, the combined action of both GLP-1 and GIP, is often significantly weakened or sometimes almost entirely absent.
So the body's natural system isn't working properly.
Exactly. That physiological deficit is why developing therapeutic strategies using synthetic versions or mimics of these hormones has become so incredibly important.
Okay, so these natural hormones are clearly very powerful, but you mentioned a challenge in using them therapeutically. What was the main hurdle?
The big problem historically was their incredibly short biological half-life.
Meaning they don't last long in the body.
Not at all. Our native natural GLP-1, for example, gets broken down extremely rapidly by an enzyme called dipeptidyl peptidase 4, or DPP4.
DPP4, okay.
Think of DPP4 as a very efficient cleanup crew. It degrades GLP-1 in just 1 to 2 minutes.
Wow, that fast.
So that rapid breakdown meant native GLP-1 just wasn't practical as a drug.
Right, it would disappear almost instantly.
Exactly. So the breakthrough came when scientists developed synthetic GLP-1 analogs. These are molecules designed to activate the GLP-1 receptor, but crucially, they're engineered to be resistant to that DPP4 enzyme.
Ah, they built in protection.
Precisely. This modification extends their duration of action from mere minutes to hours, or even days in some cases. That's what finally made them therapeutically viable.
And that engineering marvel led us to the clinical milestones we see today. I remember the earlier GLP-1 drugs coming out.
Like exenatide, which was twice daily back in 2005.
Yes, and then liraglutide, once daily. They were revolutionary for type 2 diabetes management at the time.
Absolutely, a whole new mechanism.
But then things evolved further towards more convenient options, like the once-weekly formulations dulaglutide, for example, made adherence much easier for patients.
Definitely. But the real game changers, the ones that set completely new benchmarks for efficacy, were semaglutide from Novo Nordisk and tirzepatide from Eli Lilly.
Let's talk about semaglutide first. Known by different brand names, right?
That's right. Ozempic for type 2 diabetes, Wegovy specifically for obesity, and Rybelsus is the oral version.
Its potency was a major step up.
Hugely significant. In the Big Step clinical trial program, which focused specifically on obesity, the once-weekly injectable semaglutide Wegovy achieved an average weight loss of around 15% of body weight.
15% is substantial.
It really is. That result dramatically surpassed most previous weight loss medications and started to get close to the kind of weight reduction seen with some types of bariatric surgery. It shifted the whole paradigm.
And then came tirzepatide from Eli Lilly, even more potent.
Yes. Tirzepatide marked another major advancement. You know it as Mounjaro for type 2 diabetes and Zepbound for obesity. It was the first unimolecular dual agonist.
Meaning one molecule hits two targets.
Exactly. A single, elegantly designed molecule that activates both the GLP-1 and the GIP receptors simultaneously.
Combining those two incretin effects we discussed.
Precisely. And the results were stunning. The key SURMOUNT-1 trial looked at people with obesity, but without diabetes. Tirzepatide showed a mean weight reduction of up to 20.9% over 72 weeks.
Over 20%. That's huge for a medication.
Astonishing. It truly set a new, very high benchmark for non-surgical weight management. And in a head-to-head trial called SURPASS-2, tirzepatide was shown to be superior to semaglutide for both blood sugar control and weight loss.
So clearly superior efficacy in that direct comparison.
Undeniably. This level of efficacy was just unimaginable with medication alone just a few years prior.
The impact of these two drugs, semaglutide and tirzepatide, has been massive. They're now the standard of care in many ways.
Absolutely. Their success fueled the explosive growth of the entire GLP-1 market.
And created this situation where two companies, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, essentially dominate.
Right. They control well over 99% of the U.S. market for these agents. It's a true duopoly, which of course shapes everything from pricing to future innovation.
Okay, so these current therapies are incredibly successful, but they're not perfect. There are still limitations, challenges. And these challenges are precisely what's driving the next wave of innovation we're seeing now. Let's talk about those limitations. One big one is tolerability, especially gastrointestinal issues.
Yes, GI tolerability is probably the most common hurdle for patients starting these medications. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation. These are frequent adverse effects.
Particularly when starting or increasing the dose.
Exactly. During that initial dose escalation phase as the body adapts. We have real-world data on this too. A large RAND survey, for example, found 52% of users reported nausea, 34% diarrhea, and 20% vomiting.
Those are significant numbers.
They are. And while often mild to moderate, these side effects can be severe enough to make patients stop taking the drug. In some rare but serious cases, they can even lead to dehydration requiring hospitalization.
So it's a real clinical concern.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it creates this inherent tolerability-efficacy trade-off. Higher doses generally work better for weight loss or blood sugar control.
But they also tend to cause more side effects.
Exactly. Finding that right balance for each individual patient can be tricky.
Beyond the GI issues, the fact that most of these are injections is another barrier, isn't it?
Yes. The mode of administration is a significant factor. The most effective GLP-1 therapies currently are subcutaneous injections, usually once a week. For many people, that's a real hurdle to long-term use.
Why is that?
Several reasons. Needle phobia is a genuine issue for some. There's the inconvenience factor remembering to do it, the process itself. And some people feel sort of social stigma associated with injecting medication regularly for a chronic condition.
And does this impact how well people stick with the treatment in the real world?
Profoundly. Real-world adherence data paints a very different picture than the highly controlled environment of clinical trials. One analysis found something like 68% of people starting a GLP-1, specifically for obesity, stopped within the first year.
Wow, more than 2/3.
Yeah. And another study focusing on type 2 diabetes patients found nearly 65% had discontinued therapy by 24 months.
That's a huge drop-off. What are the consequences of that poor adherence?
It's critical because the major long-term health benefits, reducing heart attacks, strokes, protecting kidneys, these things only happen with consistent long-term use. If people stop taking the medication after a year or two, those crucial health economic benefits just don't materialize. It really undermines the overall value proposition of the drug class.
And then there's the cost, the elephant in the room, really.
Absolutely. Cost and access are enormous challenges. The list prices in the U.S. are often over $1,000 a month.
Which is prohibitive for many.
For most people, yes. It puts a massive burden on patients, employers providing insurance, and government payers. Surveys consistently show over half of patients report difficulty affording them, even with insurance.
And insurance coverage itself can be patchy, especially for weight management.
That's a major issue. While coverage for type 2 diabetes is generally better, many insurers and employers restrict or deny coverage when these drugs are prescribed primarily for obesity. This creates huge inequities in access. Basically, only those with the best insurance or the ability to pay thousands out of pocket can get them for weight loss.
And that cost becomes a major reason people stop treatment.
It's a leading factor, often the primary factor, in why people discontinue, even if the drug is working wonders for them. Solving this affordability crisis is absolutely essential.
Okay, another layer of complexity is the quality of the weight loss itself. It's not just about the number on the scale decreasing.
That's a growing and important concern. Studies are suggesting that a significant portion, potentially up to 40% of the total weight lost with these powerful GLP-1 drugs, can be lean body mass, muscle, essentially.
Not just fat loss.
Right. And losing muscle mass can be detrimental, especially for older adults who might already be at risk of sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss.
What are the negative impacts of losing muscle?
It can lower your metabolic rate, making it harder to keep weight off long term. It reduces physical strength, and increases frailty, raises the risk of falls. It can really impact overall function and quality of life.
So there's a real need for strategies that preserve muscle while promoting fat loss.
Exactly. We need therapies or combinations that lead to high-quality weight loss, maximizing fat reduction while minimizing or even preventing the loss of lean muscle.
And finally, what happens when people stop taking these medications? The weight regain issue.
Yes, the rebound effect. This is critical because obesity is a chronic disease like high blood pressure. It requires long-term, potentially lifelong management.
So stopping the medication means the underlying condition isn't being treated anymore.
Precisely. And studies consistently show that when people stop GLP-1 therapy, they tend to regain a significant portion, often up to 2/3 of the weight they lost, usually within a year.
That must be incredibly frustrating for patients.
It is. And it underscores the need for treatment strategies that are sustainable long-term, affordable, convenient, and well-tolerated enough for people to stick with them for years, potentially indefinitely.
So these challenges, GI side effects, injections, cost, muscle loss, weight regain, they're really the catalysts for the next generation of therapies we're starting to see emerge.
Absolutely. They're driving innovation towards solutions that address these specific limitations.
Which brings us to this idea of the multi-agonist approach, moving beyond just targeting GLP-1.
Exactly. It's a major paradigm shift. Instead of just one target, drug developers are designing single molecules that can activate multiple complementary hormone receptors simultaneously.
Kind of mimicking what happens naturally in the body, or perhaps after interventions like bariatric surgery.
That's the idea. Bariatric surgery triggers complex hormonal changes involving multiple gut hormones, leading to profound weight loss. This approach tries to replicate that pharmacologically.
And tirzepatide was the proof of concept for this dual agonist strategy, hitting both GLP-1 and GIP.
Yes, tirzepatide powerfully validated this approach. We talked about GLP-1's affects appetite suppression, slowing gastric emptying, insulin glucagon effects. GIP adds to that. It strongly boosts insulin secretion, seems to enhance the weight loss driven by GLP-1, and might have other benefits for insulin sensitivity and fat metabolism. They work synergistically.
And that synergy led to those impressive results like the 20.9% weight loss in SURMOUNT-1.
Exactly. That level of efficacy really opened the door and set a new standard, showing that combining targets could push results closer to surgical levels.
So if GLP-1 and GIP work well together, what's the next logical step? Adding another target.
Precisely. The next frontier became incorporating glucagon agonism.
Glucagon? But doesn't that usually raise blood sugar? It seems counterintuitive.
It does, traditionally, yes. It's insulin's counter-regulatory hormone. But glucagon also has effects that are very desirable for treating obesity.
Such as?
It increases energy expenditure, basically, burns more calories. It promotes thermogenesis, heat production. It stimulates lipolysis, the breakdown of stored fat. And it also helps suppress appetite.
Okay, those sound like good things for weight loss, but how do you get those benefits without raising blood sugar?
That's the clever part. The scientific innovation is in the balance. You combine glucagon agonism with strong GLP-1 receptor agonism. The powerful glucose-lowering and insulin-stimulating effects of GLP-1 completely offset glucagon's tendency to raise blood sugar.
So the GLP-1 cancels out the unwanted blood sugar effect?
Exactly. It allows the beneficial effects of glucagon on energy expenditure and fat breakdown to emerge without causing hyperglycemia. It's a sophisticated balancing act.
And are there drugs in development using this GLP-1 glucagon approach?
Yes, definitely. Leading candidates include survodutide, which is being developed by Boehringer Ingelheim and Zealand Pharma, and also VK2735 from Viking Therapeutics. Both are dual GLP-1 glucagon receptor agonists.
Okay, so dual agonists targeting GLP-1 plus GIP or GLP-1 plus glucagon. What about combining all three?
That's the logical next step, isn't it? The triple agonist approach, a single molecule designed to engage GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon receptors, aiming for the ultimate synergy.
Maximum hormonal impact from one drug.
That's the goal. And the leading candidate here, generating a lot of excitement, is Eli Lilly's Retatrutide.
Retatrutide. Now, this one isn't approved yet, right?
Correct. Very important to state. Retatrutide is an investigational therapy, meaning it is not approved and cannot be prescribed.
Got it. But the early results were pretty spectacular.
Absolutely remarkable. Its phase 2 clinical trial results were presented, showing a mean weight reduction of 24.2% at 48 weeks.
24%? That's deep into bariatric surgery territory.
Firmly in that range, yes. Similar outcomes seen with procedures like sleeve gastrectomy. It's a potential game changer for pharmacological therapy.
So what's next for retatrutide?
Eli Lilly has launched a large-scale phase 3 program called Triumph. It's designed to confirm that stunning weight loss efficacy, but also to assess its benefits across a whole range of obesity-related conditions, things like obstructive sleep apnea, knee osteoarthritis, cardiovascular disease. They're looking at the whole picture.
A very ambitious program. Now, Novo Nordisk seems to be taking a slightly different path with their multi-agonist strategy focusing on amylin.
That's right. Novo Nordisk's strategy centers more on the GLP-1 amylin axis. Amylin is another interesting gut hormone.
What does amylin do?
It's co-secreted with insulin from the pancreas. Its main roles are, like GLP-1, slowing gastric emptying, and also promoting satiety through mechanisms in the brain. So it's complementary to GLP-1.
Another way to enhance that feeling of fullness and reduce intake.
Exactly. And Novo is pursuing this combination through two main programs. First is CagriSema.
CagriSema, what's that?
It's a fixed-dose co-formulation, meaning it combines two separate drugs in one injection. Semaglutide, their established GLP-1 agonist, and cagrilintide, which is a long-acting amylin analog.
So two active ingredients together. What's the goal?
To achieve greater weight loss than semaglutide alone. And phase 3 trials have shown it's very potent. One trial in people without diabetes showed 22.7% weight loss at 68 weeks.
Very impressive numbers again. Any drawbacks?
The main consideration is perhaps manufacturing complexity. Being a co-formulation requires more complex dual-chamber delivery device, which can add challenges to large-scale production.
Okay. And their other amylin-based candidate, the one getting a lot of buzz.
That would be Amycretin. And again, the necessary disclaimer. Amycretin is an investigational drug and is not yet approved or available for use.
Understood. What makes amycretin different?
The key innovation is that amycretin is a unimolecular coagonist. It's a single peptide molecule engineered to hit both GLP-1 and amylin receptors.
So one molecule, two targets, similar to tirzepatide, but with amylin instead of GIP.
Precisely. And that single molecule design could potentially simplify manufacturing compared to cagrisema.
And the early data on amycretin.
Exceptionally strong. The subcutaneous injectable version showed a remarkable 24.3% weight loss in just 36 weeks.
Wow, that's incredibly fast and potent, potentially even exceeding Retatrutide's trajectory.
It certainly appears to be in that league based on the early data, yes. And maybe even more compelling, they also have an oral formulation of amycretin.
An oral version of this dual agonist.
Yes. And its phase 1 trial showed 13.1% weight loss in just 12 weeks. That's very significant for an oral agent so early on.
Novo must be confident in this one.
Extremely. They've advanced both the injectable and the oral versions of amycretin directly into phase 3 development. This clearly positions amycretin as a potential future cornerstone for them, offering both potentially class-leading efficacy and the convenience of an oral option.
It really seems like these multi-targeted approaches are the future. GLP-1 plus GIP plus glucagon plus amylin. I even saw mentions of adding peptide YY or PYY.
Yes, the academic research is already exploring quad agonists. It just highlights how much innovation is happening, trying to harness these synergistic hormonal pathways for maximum benefit.
Okay, let's pivot slightly and profile some of these leading next-generation candidates in more detail, looking at the overall pipeline strategy. Eli Lilly seems very strategically positioned.
They certainly do. Their pipeline looks designed to cover both ends of the spectrum, peak efficacy and maximum convenience.
With Retatrutide representing that peak efficacy target.
Exactly. Again, remembering Retatrutide is investigational and not approved. But yes, it's the current pinnacle of the multi-agonist strategy, hitting GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon. That phase 2 data showing 24.2% weight loss at 48 weeks really set the bar incredibly high.
And the phase 3 Triumph program aims to confirm that and show benefits beyond weight loss.
Right. Confirming the weight loss, but also rigorously testing its impact on major comorbidities like sleep apnea, knee osteoarthritis, and cardiovascular disease. It's aiming for broad, deep impact.
So Retatrutide for maximum effect. What about their play for maximum convenience? That would be Orforglipron.
Correct. Orforglipron, also investigational and not yet approved. This is Lilly's answer to the huge need for a convenient oral option. It's an oral, once-daily, non-peptide, small molecule GLP-1 receptor agonist.
Non-peptide. Why is that important?
It means it's chemically different from the injectable GLP-1s. It's more stable, potentially easier and cheaper to manufacture at scale. But the key advantage for patients is convenience. Unlike the current oral semaglutide, Rybelsus or Orforglipron can likely be taken anytime, with or without food or water restrictions. That's a massive difference for daily life.
A true game changer for adherence. What about its efficacy?
The phase 3 ATTAIN-1 trial results came out in August 2025. It showed a mean weight loss of 12.4%, about 27 pounds at 72 weeks.
So decent weight loss, maybe comparable to injectable semaglutide, but perhaps not as high as the multi-agonists.
Exactly. It's a strategic trade-off. You give up some of that peak multi-agonist efficacy in exchange for the huge convenience of a simple daily pill. The goal is to broaden access significantly.
And safety, the usual GI side effects.
Yes, the safety profile was consistent with the GLP-1 class, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea being the most common. It led to about a 10% discontinuation rate at the highest dose in the trial, which is something to manage, but generally considered acceptable for the class.
Okay, let's turn to Novo Nordisk's response. We mentioned cagrisema and amycretin as their key next-gen assets focusing on that GLP-1 amylin pathway.
Right, they're pushing hard on that front. Cagrisema, the injectable co-formulation of semaglutide and cagrilintide, its phase 3 redefined program showed strong results, like that 22.7% mean weight loss at 68 weeks in the redefined 1 trial for people without diabetes. Very potent.
But with that potential manufacturing complexity due to the dual-chamber device.
That's a consideration, yes.
Yeah.
Which makes amycretin potentially even more attractive strategically for them.
The unimolecular GLP-1 amylin co-agonist, still investigational, of course.
Correct. Amycretin is an investigational drug and is not yet approved or available for use.
But the data is compelling.
Extremely. The injectable showed that remarkable 24.3% weight loss in just 36 weeks. And the oral version yielded 13.1% loss in only 12 weeks in phase 1.
And both are going straight to phase 3.
Yes, a clear sign of Novo's confidence. They see amycretin, in both injectable and oral forms, as a potential future cornerstone, capable of competing at the highest levels of efficacy while also offering that crucial oral convenience option.
So we have the two giants, Lilly and Novo, with these impressive pipelines. But are there other players, challengers, that could genuinely disrupt this duopoly?
Oh, absolutely. The potential market size is attracting a lot of innovation.
Yeah.
Amgen's candidate, Maritide or Maribart-Cafraglutide, is particularly interesting.
Maritide, also investigational.
Yes. Maritide is an investigational drug and is not yet approved by the Food and Drug Administration.
What's unique about Maritide?
Two main things. First, its mechanism. It's a GLP-1 receptor agonist, but a GIP receptor antagonist. It blocks GIP,
Right.
unlike Lilly's tirzepatide, which activates it, a different biological hypothesis.
Interesting. GIP antagonism instead of agonism. What's the other unique feature?
Its formulation. It's a peptide antibody conjugate. This structure gives it an exceptionally long half-life, around 21 days.
21 days. What does that mean for dosing?
It means it could potentially be dosed once monthly, or maybe even less frequently. They explored dosing every 8 weeks in their phase 2 trial.
Once every month or two. That would be revolutionary for convenience.
Absolutely. A massive reduction in treatment burden. The phase 2 data showed dose-dependent weight loss up to 16.2% at 52 weeks, and maybe even some sustained effect after stopping. It's a very disruptive profile.
Definitely one to watch. What about Pfizer? They were working on an oral GLP-1 too, danuglipron.
Yes, danuglipron, another oral small molecule like Orforglipron. But Pfizer hit some significant hurdles. Their initial phase 2b trial used a twice-daily formulation, and it had very high rates of GI side effects, 73% nausea, 47% vomiting. This led to over half the participants dropping out of the trial.
Ouch. That's not sustainable.
No. So Pfizer is now pivoted completely. They're focusing all their efforts on developing a once-daily modified release formulation of danuglipron, hoping that will significantly improve tolerability. The jury's still out on that one.
Are there other innovators we should mention?
Definitely. Viking Therapeutics has reported positive phase 2 data for its dual GLP-1 glucagon agonist, VK2735, showing about 14.7% weight loss in just 13 weeks. Quite promising. And we're seeing a lot of activity from Korean pharmaceutical companies, Hanmi, Johan, HK, and they're advancing their own GLP-1 based drugs.
What's their angle?
Often they seem to be focusing on novel delivery technologies, things like different approaches to monthly injectables or even transdermal patches. Their innovation makes them potentially valuable partners or acquisition targets for bigger players. The competition is really global now.
It's clear that innovation isn't just about the molecule, but how you deliver it. That search for a convenient, effective oral GLP-1 is seen as a huge prize.
It really is the holy grail for expanding access. Getting rid of the needle would open these therapies up to so many more people.
We talked about two main approaches, oral peptides with enhancers and small molecules. Can you elaborate on the peptide approach first, like Rybelsus?
Right. Novo Nordisk pioneered this with oral semaglutide, Rybelsus. The method involves mixing the large peptide drug with an absorption enhancer like SNAC. This enhancer temporarily makes the stomach lining slightly more permeable, allowing a tiny fraction of the peptide to get absorbed.
But it has limitations.
Big ones. The bioavailability is extremely low. Less than 1% of the drug actually gets absorbed. And because of that, it requires those very strict dosing instructions.
Empty stomach, tiny bit of water, wait 30 minutes before anything else.
Exactly. Those rules are necessary for it to work at all, but they definitely reduce the convenience factor compared to a simple injection for many patients. Novo's higher dose oral semaglutide for obesity will likely have similar constraints.
So the other approach, the oral small molecules like Orforglipron and danuglipron, seems more straightforward for patients.
Potentially, yes. Because they aren't peptides, they're inherently more stable in the gut and can be absorbed without needing those permeation enhancers.
Which means they can be formulated as a regular tablet.
Correct. A conventional tablet, likely taken once a day, without all those food and water restrictions. That's the true game-changer potential for convenience.
And potentially cheaper to make.
Generally, small molecules are less complex and less expensive to manufacture at scale compared to large peptides. This could eventually translate to better affordability and supply.
But the main challenge is getting the efficacy without unbearable side effects.
That's the balancing act. Achieving enough weight loss or glucose lowering without causing too much nausea or vomiting, as Pfizer initially struggled with, the company that nails that balance will have a massive advantage.
Okay, moving beyond orals, what about making injectables more convenient? Extending the time between shots, monthly, quarterly.
There's the next frontier for injectables, absolutely. Dramatically reducing dosing frequency.
And Amgen's Maritide is leading the charge here.
It certainly appears to be the clinical leader. Its peptide antibody conjugate structure gives it that super long half-life of about 21 days, which directly supports once monthly dosing, or maybe even less often, like every 8 weeks as they tested.
The benefit being
A significant reduction in treatment burden. Imagine just needing a shot every month or two, especially for long-term weight maintenance. It could dramatically improve persistence. A set-it-and-forget-it approach is very appealing for chronic disease management.
Are others working on long-acting injectables too?
Yes. The Korean company Yuhan, for example, is developing a once-monthly GLP-1 injectable, but it's technically challenging. Novo Nordisk, for instance, recently had to discontinue a once-monthly GLP-1 GIP dual agonist because the clinical profile wasn't favorable. Maintaining stable drug levels over such long periods isn't easy.
Looking even further ahead, are things like patches viable? Transdermal delivery?
People are definitely working on it. Transdermal patches face a big hurdle because these peptide molecules are generally too large to just passively soak through the skin.
So how do you get them through?
The more promising approach is using microneedle patches. These have tiny microscopic needles that painlessly create microchannels just through the very top layer of skin. This allows the drug to bypass that main barrier and get delivered into the tissue underneath.
Microneedles. Interesting. Can they provide sustained relief?
Yes. The microneedles themselves can be made from biodegradable polymers that are loaded with the drug, dissolving slowly over time to release it. For example, Daewon Pharmaceutical in South Korea is actively developing a weekly semaglutide microneedle patch. They're aiming for a potential launch around 2028.
Now, you mentioned a safety warning about patches sold online.
Yes, this is crucial for listeners. It is critical to be aware of unregulated GLP-1 patches currently sold online. These products are typically supplements containing herbal ingredients with unproven claims about stimulating the body's own GLP-1 production. Quote, they are not Food and Drug Administration approved drugs and have no clinical evidence to support their efficacy or safety. For your safety, only use therapies prescribed by a qualified healthcare provider.
Very important distinction. Are there other novel delivery platforms being explored?
Yes. Companies like Lexaria Bioscience with their Dehydratech platform and Merck, which licensed technology from Cypermed, are investing in ways to improve the oral absorption of various peptide drugs, potentially opening up more options beyond the current approaches.
It's fascinating how the impact of these GLP-1 drugs is broadening. It's not just diabetes and obesity anymore. They seem to affect multiple organ systems.
That's right. The pleiotropic effects are becoming increasingly clear. We're seeing robust evidence that they are becoming foundational therapies for a much wider range of chronic conditions. Cardiovascular and renal protection is a huge area.
Tell us about the cardiovascular benefits, the CVOTs.
Right, the large cardiovascular outcome trials. Initially, regulatory agencies required these trials just to prove the drugs were safe for the heart in people with type 2 diabetes. But what they consistently showed was not just safety, but significant efficacy in reducing MA major adverse cardiovascular events.
MAT includes heart attack, stroke, cardiovascular death.
Exactly. And the benefit seems to come from multiple pathways. Indirectly, by improving blood sugar, weight, blood pressure, lipids, but also potentially direct effects. GLP-1 receptors are found on heart muscle cells and the cells lining blood vessels. Activation might reduce inflammation and improve blood vessel function directly.
And this benefit extends beyond diabetes patients.
Yes, that was the key finding from the SELECT trial. It showed semaglutide reduced MCE in patients who had existing cardiovascular disease and obesity, but without diabetes. This proved the heart benefits weren't just due to better blood sugar control.
A landmark finding. And a similar story is unfolding for kidney protection.
Very similar. The early CVOTs already showed hints of kidney benefits, like reduced protein leakage in the urine, albuminuria. This led to the dedicated FLOW trial, specifically looking at semaglutide in patients with both type 2 diabetes and chronic kidney disease, CKD.
And the results were strong.
Overwhelmingly positive. The trial was stopped early because the benefit was so clear. Semaglutide significantly reduced a combined endpoint of kidney disease progression, kidney-related death, and cardiovascular death in these patients.
Huge implications for kidney care.
Absolutely. It led directly to FDA approval in January 2025 for Ozempic, semaglutide, to reduce the risk of CKD progression in type 2 diabetes patients. It really cements GLP-1s as vital tools in cardiorenal metabolic care.
Moving beyond heart and kidneys, what about liver health? Specifically MASH, or NASH, as it used to be called.
Yes, ARH, metabolic dysfunction-associated steatohepatitis. This is a severe form of fatty liver disease driven by metabolic issues like obesity and insulin resistance. It can lead to cirrhosis and liver failure.
And GLP-1s show promise here.
Significant promise. By tackling the root causes of obesity and insulin resistance, these drugs have shown profound benefits for the liver. Multiple trials with drugs like semaglutide and liraglutide have shown they can significantly reduce liver fat content. And importantly, they can actually resolve the MAH inflammation and damage seen on liver biopsies without making scarring worse.
That's impressive. Do the multi-agonists work even better?
It appears so. A phase 2 study of tirzepatide shows 62% of patients achieved MAH resolution. And Retatrutide, the triple agonist, led to an incredible 82.4% reduction in liver fat content in its study.
So potentially a major new treatment avenue for MASH.
Very likely. The future might involve combinations. For instance, Madrigal Pharmaceuticals, which has the first FDA-approved MASH drug Rezdiffra, recently licensed an oral GLP-1 agonist, presumably to test in combination.
Okay, now for maybe the most complex and perhaps exciting frontier, neuroprotection, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
This is definitely a hot area of research. There's a growing understanding of the links between metabolic health, things like insulin resistance in the brain, and the development of neurodegenerative diseases.
And GLP-1 receptors are in the brain.
Yes, they are. And activating them in preclinical lab models shows various neuroprotective effects, reducing inflammation, fighting oxidative stress, preventing nerve cell death, improving synaptic function. The biological rationale is there.
What's the clinical evidence for Alzheimer's so far?
Preclinical work suggests GLP-1s might reduce amyloid plaques and tau tangles, the hallmarks of AD. Observational studies in humans have linked GLP-1 use for diabetes with a lower risk of developing dementia later on. More concretely, the ELA trial, a phase 2b study of liraglutide in mild AD, reported results in July 2024. It found liraglutide was associated with a significant slowing of cognitive decline and nearly 50% less brain shrinkage over 1 year.
Those sound like very promising signals.
They are, but we need confirmation from larger, longer phase 3 trials. Novo Nordisk is running the EVOKE and EVOKE Plus studies with oral semaglutide right now, aiming for those definitive answers.
And for Parkinson's disease, the picture seems a bit murkier.
It does, yes. We've had some conflicting results. A phase 2 trial of lixisenatide reported in April 2024 was quite positive. Patients on the drug showed no progression of motor symptoms over a year, suggesting it might slow the disease down.
But another trial wasn't positive.
Right. A large phase 3 trial of exenatide, another GLP-1 reported in February 2025, found no evidence that it slowed Parkinson's progression.
Why the difference?
It likely highlights critical differences between the drugs themselves, maybe how well they cross the blood-brain barrier or exactly how they interact with the neuronal targets. We need more research with the newer, perhaps more brain-penetrant agents to really understand the potential here.
Are there any other notable emerging uses for these drugs?
Yes, a couple of interesting ones. Eli Lilly's Zepbound, tirzepatide, recently got FDA approval specifically for treating moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea in people with obesity, based on trials showing it significantly reduced breathing interruptions.
That's a significant comorbidity addressed.
Definitely. And there's also early but intriguing research and anecdotal reports suggesting GLP-1s might help reduce cravings and potentially treat substance use disorders like alcohol or opioid addiction. The idea is they might modulate the brain's reward pathways. Still early days, but another potential avenue.
So as these incredibly potent drugs become more widespread, optimizing how we use them is key. We need to go beyond just prescribing them and address the nuances. Let's circle back to that quality of weight loss issue of preserving muscle mass.
Yes, this is absolutely critical for ensuring the weight loss translates into better health and function, especially for older adults. Losing 15–40% of weight lost as muscle isn't ideal. It can lower metabolism, reduce strength, increase frailty, potentially counteracting some benefits of the fat loss.
You mentioned the BELIEVE trial as a potential game changer here, combining semaglutide with bimagrumab.
Right. And again, bimagrumab is investigational, not approved. It's a monoclonal antibody that blocks activin type 2 receptors, which helps preserve or even build muscle.
And the combination was effective?
Strikingly so. The combination led to more total weight loss, 22.1%, than semaglutide alone, 15.7%. But the really amazing part was the quality of that loss.
How so?
In the combination group, almost 93% of the weight loss was fat mass. With semaglutide alone, it was closer to 72% fat. And bimagrumab by itself actually led to 100% fat loss, plus a 2.5% increase in lean mass.
Wow, so the combination allows for significant fat loss while protecting, maybe even building muscle.
Exactly. It's powerful proof of concept that we can achieve high-quality weight loss. It shifts the focus from just quantity to composition. Studies combining bimagrumab with tirzepatide are now planned. A really exciting development.
Truly significant. Another key issue is bridging that adherence gap, getting real-world persistence closer to clinical trial levels. What strategies can help?
It requires a multi-pronged approach. First, proactive side effect management is crucial. Good patient education, slow-dose titration, dietary advice avoiding fatty or spicy foods initially, for example.
Managing expectations is important too. The hype can be intense.
Very important. Clinicians need to explain that weight loss usually plateaus after 12-18 months, and the focus then shifts to long-term maintenance. It's not necessarily about continuous rapid loss forever.
And tackling the cost and insurance barriers.
That's fundamental. Simplifying prior authorization, step therapy, developing sustainable pricing, these are essential systemic changes needed. Financial toxicity is a huge driver of non-adherence.
And acknowledging the rebound effect that stopping treatment often means regaining weight highlights the need for long-term strategies.
Yes. It emphasizes that for many, this is lifelong management, which creates a need and an opportunity for affordable, convenient maintenance options, maybe stepping down from an injectable to an oral, or integrating effective lifestyle support programs.
That leads perfectly into the role of patient support beyond the pill or injection. Integrating digital health and lifestyle interventions seems crucial.
It's clear that these drugs work best alongside comprehensive lifestyle changes, diet, activity. Digital health platforms offer a scalable way to deliver that support.
What kind of services are emerging?
We're seeing partnerships between pharma, payers, and digital health companies like Omada Health. They offer personalized coaching from dietitians, health coaches, pharmacists, access to behavioral therapies like CBT, adherence tracking, reminders, proactive outreach.
The goal being better adherence and more durable results.
Exactly. Improve adherence, make the weight loss last longer, and ultimately demonstrate better value for these expensive therapies.
And looking even further, could treatment become more personalized based on individual biology?
That's definitely the direction things are heading. There's emerging evidence that genetics might influence how well someone responds to different types of incretin therapies. The future could involve using genetic markers or other biomarkers to predict who will benefit most from, say, a GLP-1 monoagonist versus a dual or triple agonist.
Moving towards precision medicine and metabolic health.
Precisely. Shifting from a one-size-fits-all approach to tailoring the therapy to optimize the risk-benefit for each unique patient.
Okay, let's wrap up with the strategic and commercial outlook. This market is projected to be enormous, $150 billion or more. But right now, supply seems to be the biggest bottleneck.
That's absolutely the case. Demand is far outstripping supply, leading to persistent shortages. Manufacturing capability has become a massive competitive differentiator. It's a real manufacturing arms race.
What makes it so hard to produce these drugs?
Several factors. Most are peptides made using solid-phase peptide synthesis, SPPS. It's complex, resource-intensive, uses huge amounts of specialized solvents, costly, and not great environmentally. Scaling this up requires enormous capital investment. Lilly investing $24 billion since 2020, Novo tens of billions. That's a huge barrier to entry for smaller companies.
And it's not just the drug itself, but the delivery devices too.
Right. The specialized auto-injectors and pens are also facing supply chain pressures due to the sheer surge in demand. Manufacturers are investing heavily in innovations like aqueous synthesis and flexible facilities to try and keep up.
So supply is one issue. The other huge long-term factor is affordability. How can this market be sustainable with such high prices?
That's the critical question. The fractured reimbursement landscape, especially for obesity, is a major problem. While type 2 diabetes coverage is usually okay, many employers and plans balk at covering these drugs just for weight loss due to the high upfront cost.
Even if they might save money long-term by preventing complications.
Exactly. There's a difference between cost effectiveness over decades and immediate affordability within a 1-2 year budget cycle for a health plan. Covering millions of people at $12,000 plus per year is a huge immediate hit.
So manufacturers need to shift the focus.
Yes, they need to effectively communicate the long-term value proposition to payers, emphasizing the savings from preventing heart attacks, kidney failure, etc. Getting those cardiovascular and renal indications approved is crucial for making that argument.
And things like Medicare price negotiation could also impact future pricing.
Potentially, yes, that could introduce new pressures into the system down the line.
Finally, looking at the competitive landscape, it's a duopoly now, but with dozens of companies and drugs in the pipeline, what will the future market look like?
It's unlikely to stay a simple duopoly. We'll probably see a complex, tiered, and segmented market emerge.
Tiered how?
You'll likely have a maximum efficacy tier. This will feature the most potent injectable multi-agonists. Retatrutide, maybe amycretin, maritide. They'll command premium prices, targeting patients with severe obesity and high-risk profiles needing the biggest impact.
Okay, top tier for maximum potency. What else?
Then a huge battleground in the maximum convenience tier. This will be dominated by the oral therapies. Success here will depend on the best balance of ease of use. Once daily, no food restrictions, tolerability, and decent efficacy, maybe 10–15% weight loss. This could be the largest tier by patient volume.
And potentially a third tier.
Yes, a specialized indication tier. As these drugs get approved for other conditions, MAH, Alzheimer's, CKD, some might be priced and positioned based on unique benefits in those specific populations.
So more competition is coming soon.
Definitely. Expect new launches starting around 2026–2027. This intense competition will likely expand the overall metabolic therapy market significantly, rather than just redividing the existing pie.
It's truly a remarkable transformation happening in metabolic medicine. This next-gen GLP isn't just one drug, it's a whole new approach.
It really is a new therapeutic paradigm, built on 4 interconnected pillars. First, multi-agonist pharmacology, combining GLP-1 with GIP, glucagon, amylin to reach potentially bariatric-level efficacy. Second, patient-centric delivery systems, offering diverse options from convenient daily pills to super long-acting injectables to maximize access and adherence. Third, expanded therapeutic indications, these drugs becoming foundational for cardiorenal metabolic health, with potential in liver and neurodegenerative diseases. And fourth, integrated and holistic care models, moving beyond just the drug to include strategies for preserving muscle and providing comprehensive support through digital health and personalization.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? It's worth considering how this shift from a one-size-fits-all approach towards a more precise, personalized medicine framework could reshape not just how we treat chronic diseases, but maybe even our fundamental understanding of wellness and health span itself. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, digging deep into this rapidly evolving field. We truly hope this provided valuable insights. If you found this information beneficial, perhaps consider sharing it with others who appreciate clear, reliable health content.
And please remember, staying informed is incredibly important, but always prioritize discussions with your own qualified healthcare provider for personalized medical guidance that's right for you.